Hello, everybody. Thanks for watching this. Thanks for joining in if you jump in a little later. This episode is about using the electro-harmonix canyon with my sax and the other effects that I have. Just for clarification, this is just the canyon. There's no grand in front of it. It's actually the smaller version of, or I should say, a kind of smaller um, um, sort of sibling to the Grand Canyon by electro-harmonix, and that's got way more. Like, it's got more knobs, more functions, more buttons, all that kind of stuff. But don't don't let its size fool you. It looks like, besides the harmonic square from an earlier video, this is the smallest pedal on here, but it has a lot of function going on, like under the surface here, and I really do mean that. Like, even just what you can see, there's more hidden. So first, let's hear it in a couple of ways I might use it. So first, what I'm going to do is go over to my effects on the end here. For every one of these videos, I really like to give you an idea of what the dry saxophone with no effects sounds like, so you know that I'm starting from that bass, okay? So I'm going to turn all the other effects off. There we go. No reverb, no enhancement from the vocal pedal that I've talked about before. Um, Here's a little excerpt. Okay, a pretty sloppy, I think, C major scale. I just set in the garage, which I guess has really, it's been converted. It's not a garage anymore. It's kind of like a, I don't know, workout room slash um, practice space. But it's attached to the house, so that's I'm not banished to another building yet. So anyway, I just went in there and recorded several things. I threw them down really quickly, so it's not my best. It's not my best. Sorry about that. Um, Also, it wasn't after like some warm up time or anything. I just went down there, dropped some recordings for a few minutes, and came back to start doing this. So there we go. C major scale, nothing fancy. Let's throw the my sort of overall effects on, my kind of leave on, or I've heard some people call them like EDC, like everyday carry effects or something like that. I don't know. I just leave these on, okay? So we've got the enhancement that I've dialed in, which is basically EQ for me. I'm not using much of the fancy stuff, except a little bit of de-essing. All right, now play that clip again. Okay, it's gotten a little weaker there. But I explained that before, why that is and why that's okay, really. All right, and then add my leave on reverb. All right, there you go. So that's my like starting place with all these effects, okay? Um, Sort of a misnomer because those effects are happening at the end, but that's fine. That's what I should say. Maybe that's what all the effects are getting kind of filtered through. But I'll show you this one. I'm going to turn off the reverb that I use regularly so that you really get a sense for what this pedal sounds like without any help. Um, Actually, I'll go ahead and turn off the EQ as well. I'll sort of A/B that one so you can see what difference that makes, but I'll leave the reverb off the whole time. I'm not going to turn it back on unless I, say that. I don't know. I won't turn it on without telling you. Okay, so all those things are off. All of the effects are off. Here's the dry sound again. So completely dry. We're back to that. Let's pick a different clip to get tired of. I think I did that one yesterday. That's sort of another version of that one. I already did. Well, that'd be fine. Actually, I'll go back to this clip of a song I play with Flowtone called Clarity. I'll go back to that clip because it has some good space, and it's also a good example of why I want to use this pedal. So let's get to it. I'll play the clip real quick. Sorry, it's this one. Okay, it's longer than that, but that's the sound. That's kind of a lead line, sort of a counter melody that's going on behind a vocal melody. So you definitely want to hear that, but I don't want it to be the upfront thing. I don't want it to overtake the vocalist. And to be fair, the EQ and the reverb on the end of the chain do help with that, but what they don't do is take away any of the original sound that goes to them. So those are just additive. They just add reverb onto what's already going through. This pedal I use differently, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, here's a wonderful thing about this. I gotta move the mic over. This knob right here, this effects level knob, is not just it's a little deceptive because it's not just an effects level knob. It's actually an effects like balance knob. So let's see what happens. I'll just let you hear it. Nothing, right? So let's start adding in some effect. Okay, actually, I'm going to pause that. I'm going to switch this to the most basic. Yeah, just the most basic echo, okay? So let's keep going. So now we've added some effect in. You can definitely hear the echo there. I'm going to increase the delay time so it's even bigger. So you can hear when I get up here, it starts getting loud. And that's because actually north on this pedal, or 12 o'clock, is splitting 50-50, the original sound and the affected sound. So now the balance is right in the middle, it's 50-50, which means if I keep going clockwise here, I'm going to start losing the original sound and only getting the echoes. Until I cut it out completely. Now that kind of, with the normal echoes, it doesn't do a whole lot because the it's just going to sound late because it's an echo. That's a true echo. It's just repeating the same sound again. Now, for this next part, I actually have to pull up the manual for this device because it's so rich in features. I just cannot remember them all. So let's see. What's this one? Oh, that's the Grand Canyon. I just need the canyon. So I want to make sure I describe all these things correctly to you. Okay? That's why I'm taking a second to do this. So we've got everything connected up. I do want to tell you there's a tap in um, insert right here that you can use a little control pedal to tap tempo, and that's really nice. I talked about that a little bit with this overview that's on the ARP87 right here. This is a little tap function. So this is just, it doesn't have that second knob. You can plug one in if you want to. That's fine. I don't need to because I use my ARP for all of that kind of like really obvious repetition stuff, really kind of dry delay. This I use completely differently, but I want to show you all the functions anyway. So the level knob, it says in the instructions, after you get past about 2 o'clock, so I would say like there, it says it starts to decrease the dry signal in volume. So it wasn't necessarily 12 o'clock, but it's going to start decreasing the volume of the dry signal as you go past here. All right, so that's it. Delay is, for the most part, going to control the delay time, and that's how long after the original signal is the copied or like echo or whatever gonna happen. How long is that gonna take? Not only that, but how long is it between every repeat, okay? So it's gonna be that long from the original signal, and then it's gonna be that much space in between each repeat after that. And that's what can kind of start to set up a almost like a rhythm or kind of a tempo suggestion if you use it in that way. Then you would want a tap tempo. But I'll come back to that. The feedback knob here is going to control how many times it's going to echo. So if I set it, for example, if I set this delay knob really far up, like I had it, and then set the feedback all the way down, it should just echo one time, everything. Okay, so you just get one repeat of whatever I played, just plays it back. Okay, so that's how those two knobs work, and those are really standard on almost any delay pedal. Sometimes they're called something a little different, like the delay knob might be called time or something like that. Feedback might be called repeats. On the ARP87, it's called repeats, I believe. Yeah, you can see it there when I kind of shadow over it. But that text is really difficult to read anyway. But yeah, this one says repeats. And I think there's this one has a different kind of time structure because it has these this knob has subdivisions instead of a true like delay time that's sort of fluid. But I like this one because it's just fluid the whole way through. You can sort of dial in how long you want those delays to take no matter what. It's really nice because you have a lot of control down low in that sort of time range. Now the feedback knob does a couple other things, but I don't need to go through those yet. Okay, the big one is this mode knob. So this is where we can go through all the different types of delay and reverb that's available to us on the Canyon. And I'm actually going to zoom in on that a little bit so you can see. Let's go. There we go. Boom. Hey, I'm getting better. and I remembered to click OK instead of just closing it out and losing everything I just did. All right, so here we've got this mode knob. It's got so much function around it. It doesn't even have a label for the knob. It just says all the things it can do. Okay, so you might be able to see the first one says echo. Let's see what they say on the manual, because I'm a big manual reader. Echo. This mode is a simple digital delay. Each delayed repeat sounds exactly like the previous one, and they gradually decrease in volume. There you go. That is the most simple, like, just digital delay. The goal of a digital delay is to try to, like it says, try to make those repeats exactly like the previous one. So it's really trying to keep them exactly the same every time. There's no kind of degradation in quality over time, just volume, as opposed to a mod delay, which is the next one. So I've been showing you the echo delay. Now how about the mod delay? This one, it's the same as echo, but the repeats do get kind of they do get affected. Mod stands for, is short for modulated or modulation. So it kind of alters each repeat, but it leaves the original sound alone. So let's hear that. Let's do it. I'll turn it all the way down. Actually, I'll just turn the pedal off so you can be certain it's off. Go back to the beginning of this clip. Alright, let's... Alright, let's turn this all the way up so all you hear is that effect. Let's turn this delay up a little bit. Now, to me, it sounds really subtle, the modulation part, how much it's getting modulated. Let's compare this with the echo. I'll bring a little bit of the original sound back in. And let's get around back to the beginning. So here's the modulated delay. Echo. So I don't hear a whole lot of difference between those two. Actually, I'm going to make this clip a little shorter. Okay. So what can I do about that? Actually, I won't... Do I get into it with each effect, or do I wait till the end? I'm going to get into it with each effect. There is a secondary knob function here. So, for instance, with the echo, there is no secondary mode for the echo because it's just trying to make the repeats as crystal clear as possible. But now that I've gotten into the mod delay, what I can do here is, let me make sure I've got this right for that delay mode. Okay, I've got to hold this tap/divide button down for a second. And it'll tell me, yep, there we go. The LED will blink in an on-on-off pattern to indicate that it's in secondary knob mode. Cool. The FX level and mode knobs always function normally. It's the feedback and delay knobs that get changed. So, for mod, the delay knob is going to control the modulation rate. So, and the pedal's on, right? Yes, okay. So let's check this out. Okay, I could hear that modulation just a tiny bit at the end of that clip. Okay, so now it says the default is at the 8 o'clock position of the knob. So I'm guessing, well, not turned all the way down. I guess that's more like 7 o'clock. So that's like the default that it was using before I started messing with this knob right now. And then as it's turned up, the first delay echoes will become quieter, and then it will gradually, it'll kind of reverse the way that the echoes come in. At the minimum position, the echoes just decay into silence. At the maximum position, they start really quiet and get louder. Let's do it. Maybe I've done something wrong here. Let me check this out again. Okay. I read as the knob is turned down, the last day. Okay. So what does the feedback knob do, I guess? I was reading the wrong one. I'm so sorry. Okay, the delay knob controls the modulation rate. And, okay, the modulation rate is going to control how bad that signal gets over the time of the delay. So this is how, I was just saying, I didn't hear very much modulation in the delay. This is how I can adjust that. So, and to be clear, once I set this and then get out of this secondary function mode, it's going to stay that way every time I come back to this setting. So this is a really nice way to kind of dial in each setting the way you want it, so that when you switch between them, it's already there. It's exactly what you want. Let's hear it. So what you're starting to hear is the modulation there, and it's modulation in the form of a change in intonation. It's varying the intonation up and down as the delays happen, and also degrading them in in like quality. So if I crank that all the way up, yeah, so you can hear them like change in pitch as the delays go on. Okay, so now for the feedback knob, this controls the depth of that modulation. So this is where I would go if I wanted to, if I turn it up all the way, if I turned it here, it sounds really out of tune. That sounds way out of tune. So what I can do is roll that back a little bit. Okay, so now it sounds less out of tune. Let's turn that delay knob up again. That's pretty crazy. That's a lot. Yeah, so as I turn this up, it's adjusting the difference in how wide that change is. With it turned down, it's just a little small change, and with it turned up, it's a huge change in pitch. So I don't want quite that much of a change in pitch, but you can really hear it. Yeah, when you turn this up and it's adjusting how fast, um, it almost reminds me of like chorus pedal settings. Like how fast do you want the chorus to happen, and then how deep do you want the chorus effect to be? It's kind of like that. So let's find a setting I would be happy with using. And when I say that, I mean a setting that I would find practical, and I'd be like okay with recommending to a sax player. If you got this exact same pedal and went through the settings, maybe just a starting place you could get to and be like, okay, I like that, but I want to adjust it this way a tiny bit or that way a tiny bit. Let's see what I can find. And then let's make it really subtle. Go back. Now in that way, it's pretty nice. When you turn the effects level down there, it can really become nice and subtle and less intrusive, if you have a little more of that. Now what I need to check in on is how do I get out of this secondary knob function mode. I want to make sure I do this correctly, because if I do the wrong thing, so I said it remembers these settings as you go along, but then if you oh yeah, there's no way I'll delete it accidentally. You can delete these settings and reset everything back on whichever effect you have. So I have the mod mode selected right now. I could delete these settings, set it back to default, switch it over, and if I went way out in left field and didn't want that or something, or just kind of wanted to start over. So I don't want to do that. Let's to exit the knob mode, just press and release it. Press and release the tap divide switch, and the LED will stop blinking. And it will keep. So nice, that did exactly what it said. Whatever I had these two knobs set at before, they'll stay that way until I move them. So I am going to move them though, because now the effect is pretty big. So I want to turn that delay time down a little bit. That's pretty intrusive. I find that 9 o'clock position on the feedback knob to be kind of a sweet spot for me, or at the very least a really good starting place, because like I said, I'm not trying to be intrusive with this effect. I'm trying to do the opposite. If you start having really harsh feedbacks and for a long time and with a really long delay, it can really muddy up the mix a lot, and you can start getting in the way of other players in the group. And that's not fair. That's not what we want, and it's not what people like to hear either. At least from my experience. Oh, I've got a little paint flaking off of the pedal there. Oh no, I need some white nail polish. Okay. So that's I like that. I like how much the modulation is happening. I haven't cranked this up like I could. Let's go up a little higher. Now, even that feels just a little too hot for me. It's kind of like, it's kind of like eating soup. You want it hot. You want to kind of have to go while you're eating it, kind of cool it off a little bit, but you don't want some cold soup. I don't know, or just like lukewarm. At least I don't. So that's the kind of place I like it to be, like just where you notice it. But it's not like taking over or anything or too hot. You don't want to burn your tongue on it. So let me add really quickly before I move off of this mode. I want to add my like leave on effects, so you can hear what this sounds like if I were dialing it in, which I guess I kind of just did, to use it. I don't usually use this mode. That's why I didn't have it dialed in before. But let's do it. So with just the EQ turned on, and I know that's going to make it sound a little bit weaker, so I'll turn the volume up just a tiny bit for you. Okay. So that works really well for me. I like it a lot because it trims off some of that low end stuff that can also take up a bunch of space in a mix. Let me add the other reverbs on and we'll get the whole thing. Alright, that's on. Let's hear it. Okay, now in this mode, with the reverbs on, I'm not hearing so much of the delay effect, so much of the modulation. So in this instance, I might adjust, I might go ahead and do a little adjustment. Let's do that, actually. I'll just mess with it a little bit and you can see what I'm doing. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and play this full clip now. So I'm gonna dial the level back because I don't want that kind of da-da 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 start to the note like that was giving me. See, that can make it confusing for the audience on where the note starts, and I don't want to do that. So let's roll that articulation back. And if I want to make sure I'm still getting the sound, I can turn the feedback up. Okay, maybe the delay a little bit too now that I've turned it down. Yeah, now okay, and I'll adjust these secondary functions, so that's the depth and the modulation speed. Definitely not there. That's a cool sound. I like that. A little too fast, I think. Okay, I like that. It sort of affects the original signal a little bit. Let's get that secondary mode turned off. Okay, cool. So that's how I kind of dial in these modes, and that's just one of the things that's possible with this pedal. Now that I've described how to get into each one of these modes and everything, I'm going to kind of do a little quicker fire on the rest of the modes so the video is not 2 hours long. Alright, so let's go into the multi mode here. I'm going to go over here and turn those always on effects off. Okay, those are off. We're back to the original clip. And unfortunately, I know we're going to get tired of it, but I've got to stay with this clip because I really want you to be able to like A-B these, or A, B, C, D, you know, all the way through the alphabet with all these modes, all these different sounds, and see which one you like the best. And the good news is the video of the pedal will match what you're hearing, so that's cool. You can just follow right along. Let's go into the multi-mode, and here's what electro-harmonix has to say about this. This is a multi-tap delay. So in this mode, each repeat of the delayed signal occurs at exactly the same volume, and the feedback mode sets the number of those repeats. So where in the echo they got quieter each repeat, this time they're just going to stay the same volume until they stop, like this. So if I just wanted a big slap back, there's a slap back delay where it just like just comes right back to you. I can kind of set that up with this function, it sounds like. Okay, that's really cool. It doesn't slap back super hard, and I'm sure I can just keep controlling that with the effects level. Let's see. Okay, so you can hear on short notes, that's, you know, you can really hear the slap back. On the longer note, it sort of gets covered up by the sustain of the note. So let's see what we can do with that multi to change that. Okay, in the secondary mode knob, oh, this is the one I was accidentally reading before. So in the secondary mode, we can use the delay knob, and that's the only one that we can use in this mode, to change whether the delays get louder or quieter. So the factory default is 12 o'clock, and that's no decay or swell in the delays. So cool, let's hold it down, on, off, that's our secondary mode, and it's saying, oh, sorry, wait, which knob is it? Delay knob, cool. So 12 o'clock, now that's where we were. So let's start from there. Let's get a little bit more delay in here. Okay, that's a little obnoxious the way it is right now. So, let's control this. So with it to the left, they decay really quickly. They start off close to the volume of the original signal. Well, they start off at this volume, whatever volume set by the effects level knob, and then they decay. And that adjusts how quickly they decay. So maybe actually that feels a little closer to like a slap back. Yeah, that's a really cool sound. I like that. I kind of dig that exactly how it is right now. But I do want to show the other side of this secondary function. So in the other direction, it's going to make the delays start quieter and get louder as they go. And from what I understand in the manual, it's not really making the delays louder per se. It's just decreasing the volume of the earlier ones. Okay, so the ones at the end are going to be the same volume. There's going to be this dip in volume and then raise as we go. Let's make the delays a little more obvious. All right, let's do this. That's pretty cool. That sounds pretty awesome, really. Um, I could mess with that. What it sounds like, what it kind of makes me think of is like a pre-delay. So in a lot of like reverb or delay um, effects, you can have a pre-delay where it waits a little bit after you start the note to start applying the effect. And that's usually so that there's some more clarity at the beginning of the note and it doesn't get obstructed by these delays trying to happen immediately. And that can be really helpful with making sure you're not kind of obscuring what you're playing. So this knob is really handy, this secondary mode. That's really, really helpful. I like that it's a subtle kind of version of the pre-delay, because pre-delay usually feels like nothing's happening for a split second, and then all of a sudden it is. It can sound that way if you get too far away from the original signal. This sort of fades it in nicely, and that's really neat. So I'm going to get out of this secondary function, and I'm going to mess with the delay time now to kind of take advantage of that setting. Okay, that's a little quick. Okay, the only thing I don't like about that is how abrupt of an ending there is to each one of those tails. That's a little unfortunate. But I bet if I add my always on effects, it'll help smooth that out a little bit with the reverb. Let's try it. First, I'm going to turn the effects level down just a bit. on just a second. Okay, sorry, I just had to take care of something real quickly, and we're back. So now, if I turn on these always on effects, I bet that'll smooth out that abrupt ending. Alright, and let me do the EQ first so you can hear that. Okay, that doesn't really do much for the abrupt ending. And now with the reverb on. Okay, that's pretty spacey, or that sounds like I'm playing in a canyon. I don't know, but yeah, that's pretty spacey. That's a cool sound. I probably won't use it on the regular, but I think it sounds awesome. It's definitely I don't know. I could try it out. Let's go to, well, first of all, let's go back to dry. So that's just with the always on effects, and then add the canyon. That doesn't feel like the same thing it was doing before. Now that's really cool. So one thing with that kind of harsh tail that I can do, this is a really cool function of this pedal. Without a tap in, I can actually still determine the tempo by just tapping the power switch quickly. And if you tap it more than once within a certain time frame, it'll switch it over to tap delay mode. So I can actually choose that delay like this. Now, the other thing I can do is go to this tap divide button, and I have to remember how to use it because I just use the delay knob and leave it set. So I can tap the tap divide button to change the division. And red, which is doing right now, is quarter notes. Orange, like that, is dotted eighth notes. And then green is eighth notes, straight eighth notes. So we can switch between quarters, dotted eighths, and eighths. And on my overview video when I went over the ARP 87 here, I talked about why I like to use the dotted eighth note pattern. So yeah, I'm going to use it here again for the same reason. So now we've got the tap divide going on, and I can easily turn that off by just wiggling the delay knob. Now it's not tap divide anymore. Or sorry, tap tempo. Okay, so I can adjust it. Let's tap it. Okay, so with that, if I'm using, oops. If I'm using a delay that has kind of a harder tail like that, that is sort of suggesting a tempo or a rhythm, I should say. Yeah, rhythm is a better word for it. That's kind of really laying down a definite rhythm. Then I do want to use the tap tempo to sort of match it to the song, at least in some way. And with the dotted eighth note, it's close enough to sort of be in the same time, but not, if the band wiggles a little bit to the left or right of the tempo, it's not going to sound like wrong. It's not going to sound like I'm trying to set a beat up. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. Next we have reverb. Well, reverb can mean a lot of things. There are a bunch of different kinds of reverb. So let's see what EHX says about this one. Oh my gosh. That is not reverb. That is reverse. There is a verb one later. Okay. Reverse delay. It'll literally just flip the signal that comes in. It also is a smart reverse echo, and so it tries to detect the beginning of an articulation by the spike in volume. So anytime you articulate, there's just a little spike in volume there, and it tries to sense that and go, okay, that's the beginning of a new note. I'm going to play that in reverse. Well, like this. Yeah, so it's trying to tell by the beginning of my notes what it should be playing in reverse. But let's not forget about the secondary knob function. What this is going to do is change the sensitivity. So it's trying to detect when I articulate, or if I were playing a guitar, when I pluck the strings, which is kind of an easier, it would probably have an easier time of that. Because that's real definite, and then the strings, you sort of can't like crescendo, get louder on the strings once you've plucked it. So it's a little easier for it to work with that, harder for it to work with a saxophone because I can just control the volume and then crescendo and decrescendo and all that kind of stuff. So the secondary function is going to change the sensitivity for that intelligence. It's going to tell it how hard should you listen to the beginning of notes. How loud is the beginning going to be versus the rest of the note. So let me try to change the sensitivity here to see if I can get it to really put that intelligence to use. But first I'm going to turn those always on effects off. I definitely forgot to do that after the multi. So let's get into the secondary here. On, off, cool. And the delay knob is going to be what does this for us. So let's see if we can, I don't know how much, I don't know, let's see what kind of difference it makes. See, what I think what I have a problem with is those long notes. It's playing the reverse of that attack. It's not waiting till the note's held out and then playing some part of it in reverse. I want to maybe kind of work that part out. So maybe I have to turn the sensitivity up. We'll find out. So all the way down. Actually, that's kind of working out. Yeah, it's not playing the reverse at the beginning of those long notes anymore, just after the beginning of them. Let's just turn the overall effect down a little bit. It's being weird about... Okay, that's pretty cool. It really it changes the way that line sounds. I like it with the volume pretty low. So let me add these always on effects back in and see if it smooths that out a little bit. There's just the EQ. I feel like that already kind of makes a big difference. Let's add the reverb. Yeah, that's real washy and cool. Yeah, it's unique. I like it the way I have it set there. And by the way, flipping between each of these modes, if I go into this, so say I've done what I just did, I went to reverse mode, the pedal is going to remember what I had set for the mode, for each mode, if I'm correct about that. Let me just double check here because I don't want to tell you wrong. I believe it does have a memory. I think the level knob is the only one that might not. Let's see. I'm not, I can't seem to find a clear answer on that here, but I'm pretty sure that's what happens. Either way. It doesn't really matter for me too much because I generally leave it in one position and don't mess with anything. Okay, let's move on. Next is DMM, and that is short for Deluxe Memory Man. That's emulating another pedal here, and it's an old EHX pedal with a Bucket Brigade analog delay chip in it. So basically it's kind of like if I used the mod delay again, but the modulation is kind of happening naturally through an analog, analog changes. So it's like if you played a tape, I shouldn't say that because there is a tape echo, but if you played something, maybe a record, over and over and over again, the record's going to kind of degrade from being played over and over again. The grooves are going to get smoothed out, and things are going to start to get a little less. The sharpness is going to kind of get reduced. They're going to get smoothed out, and there's going to be less definition. And that's what I think of when I think of the analog delay. And there are a lot of different analog delays. There are many ways to just make that happen. But this is one of them. It was kind of it was just a hugely famous pedal, a guitar pedal. And they've just put this inside their new Canyon. So that's really awesome. If you don't have or can't get a deluxe Memory Man, because I think if buying I don't know if they still make them, but some of these vintage pedals can go for a lot of money, and there are a lot of emulators out there that try to they use little puns to say they're exactly like that old pedal, but this one it's straight from the company, so I don't know, seems like a good deal. Let's go through the settings here. So for the Memory Man, the main settings stay the same. And I think those are the knobs. I think just delay and feedback are the knobs that are on the Memory Man. I can't remember if it has the secondary knob functions. But we're going to mess with it right now. So let's do the Memory Man. Let me go turn these always on settings off. Okay, no reverb, no EQ now. Let's just hear it. Yeah, I just hear those delays getting like warmer each time. It's not all sparkly and nice like that echo delay. Let's compare the two. So here's the echo again, and so this is where we'll find out if the knobs stay, if these have a memory. Sounds like not. Sounds like the same exact. Yeah, it's the same exact timing and everything. So yeah, these knobs stay the same. I actually prefer that because if I had set them to blend in with a certain maybe song or sound that I'm looking for, and I just wanted to adjust the sounds of those delays by switching modes like I just did, I want all that stuff to stay the same. So it's just the secondary knobs that have that memory, and that's cool because that means you can really adjust each mode. But when you switch to it, the timing and all that stuff stays the same from the other mode you switched from. So that's cool. Let's compare these three. So here's the echo. This is you might call it a digital delay. There are a bunch of digital delay pedals out there as well. But let's check it out. So I can really hear the crispness in the delays that come after them. I've got it cranked up, so that helps as well. Let's go to the mod. Okay, so they still sound really crisp and like digital to me. It's just obviously that modulation's getting applied, and it's like having a chorus pedal that only works for the delays. So that's really cool. I'm gonna skip these two because they're pretty special. They don't delay the same way. All right, let's hear the Memory Man. Yeah, I like this because the attack of each tail is kind of chilled a little bit. And that's really what I am going for with this pedal. I don't want those attacks to be really present, because then it does start to sound like you're playing a rhythm, and I don't want that kind of feeling to the delay at all. So yeah, I like this Memory Man setting. Let's go into the secondary functions. Now, these are pretty much the same as they are exactly the same as the modulation delay. It's just going to be a little more subtle in the modulations. I mean, we can see, I'll just crank it up. So let me turn them all the way down. This shouldn't be modulating the signal at all. But it should still have that analog sort of warm sound in the delays. Okay, that's what I'm getting, is that there's still that warmth in the delay. They're still kind of degrading as it delays. And there's not any modulation being applied. I turned it down just a tiny bit. That's a good tip, by the way. When you're messing with the sounds of these, try to get it as quickly as you can in a mode that it's usable, and then start adjusting all the parameters. So I'm adjusting the volume because I couldn't use that, if it's going dow, 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 and it's really like present each attack. I couldn't use that in a live setting. So I need to curtail that a little bit before I start messing with how it sounds. And then I'll crank up the level so we can compare the different sounds, So this is, just like in the mod, this is going to be the modulation speed, and this is going to be the depth. So you might hear some, like, I don't know, like a saw. Let's see. And of course, speed isn't going to matter if there isn't any depth. So actually, should add some depth. Just enough to hear. Definitely hear it. Yeah. So it seems to be the same exact feeling as the modulation delay. It's just got that different analog effect in the tails. So yeah, I could see setting this to exactly the same secondary positions as the modulation delay and leaving it there, but I've got the warmth of these analog tails. Okay, I don't want much because I want this analog delay to stay pretty clean. When you're playing long notes and stuff and you use a lot of modulation, it can really just start to sound like you're playing out of tune. And that can throw everybody else in the band off, especially if you're playing behind or along with a singer, or even harmonizing with a singer. You could really throw them off by having some of that modulation stuff cranked. So I'm not going to do this. I like this real subtle modulation. I might turn it up just a tiny bit because of that rule I've mentioned before, where as soon as you think you've got it dialed in and it's nice and subtle, crank it up a tiny bit, because that subtlety is going to, some subtlety is going to get knocked off in a live setting. So I'm just kind of remembering that. I'm going to turn it up a bit. Yeah, I hear that. I hear that modulation happening. I'm going to get out of the secondary function. Let's turn on these always on effects and see what happens. Okay, I've got the EQ and well, I was going to turn them on at the same time, but let's hear it with just the EQ on. Okay, and with the reverb now. I'm still getting a rhythmic feel out of that. Maybe I need to either drop the effects level down Yeah, that's a really subtle addition to the sound. I wouldn't want to make it much more extreme than that. I'm going to start to lose clarity. That's funny because that's what this song is called. Let's see. Let's hear what the effect sounds like, just cranked up. And well, this is the way I might use this. Okay, this is the way I use this pedal, and I do it with a different mode, but I'm going to show you with the Memory Man because I really like the way this sounds, and I could see maybe swapping it out for this if the mode I use gets maybe a little upfront or overbearing. I could probably switch between these two depending on the context. So I use this just to absolutely put myself in a canyon and make it sound like I'm playing so far away you're just hearing like a hint of what's going on. You know, it's some very background thing. If I could, almost as if it were happening like behind you. I think of the old churches that have choir lofts that are on each side of the congregation. So if you have someone like doing something up front, maybe talking or singing, and then you have the choir singing behind them, it's really just this huge wash of sound. But you still hear the person up front because they're up front and it's more direct. So this is what I'm going for. Now I can't really use that. I've got to turn the delay time down. Okay, I need to change those modulation parameters because that is a lot and it's making it sound really rough. I think it sounds cool, but I don't think it sounds usable right now. So let's go up to 50% on everything here and dial it in. Okay, that's starting to sound pretty cool to me. I still have a little bit of the direct signal going through, quite a bit, I guess. And then the delays there. Let me turn it even further to the right. Woo. Yeah, I'm having a really hard time getting that to sound the way that I want. So I'm going to move off of this, actually. I don't want to spend too much time dialing that in on you, but mainly what I would want to do is I don't want that much punctuation in the tails. I could use a little bit of compression to even that out, but I don't have that set up to go right now. And the other thing I use kind of makes it work out. But let's move on to the tape. Let's move on to the tape mode. In the tape mode, this is another kind of analog sort of delay that, like I mentioned earlier, it's just another way of getting an analog echo to happen. And this is emulating if you ran something on a tape, cassette tape or something, that the tape is starting to kind of, if you wrote it on tape really quickly and then played it 6 times really quickly or 100 times really quickly, that tape would degrade over time, just like I was talking about before. It's just another type of delay. Mainly with the tape style, the echoes kind of distort more than they like warm up. They tend to, because tape is kind of like a stretchy sort of membrane as opposed to sort of a solid wax record. The tape can sort of stretch and contract and stuff like that. So it's a different type of delay. I'll compare this with the Memory Man. I'll kind of go back and forth so you can hear the difference between those two. First, I'm going to turn off these effects. Okay, let's hear this dry one more time, just to hear what we're working with again. So that's no help. Let's just go to the end of this clip and isolate that. Cool. I'm gonna keep playing this thing. It's getting really really repetitive. Okay, so the tape delay. Let's hear it. There are secondary functions in this. We'll get to them. Okay, let's crank it all the way up, or switch it all the way to wet signal. And I'll go back and forth between the Memory Man and the tape delay so you can hear the differences between these two types of analog delay. Okay, so not a huge, it's a pretty subtle difference to my ears. But the main thing is going to be what the secondary knobs do. They are going to affect how this tape delay sounds, and that'll make it sound way more different from the Memory Man analog sound. So the In secondary mode, the delay knob controls the amount of tape distortion, emulating an aging tape, just like I was talking about before, where it's kind of like stretching out and getting the film is wearing down. And then the feedback knob controls what's called tape flutter. That's hard to describe, so let's hear it. Let's hear the description. It doesn't describe it either. It just says that's the tape flutter knob. Good luck. So we're starting from the same place here. All right, 50-50. Well, let's get rid of the tape flutter. Since these two aren't related to each other, at least I don't think, this will be cool because we can hear each one creep in individually. So this is going to be the tape degradation. So no degradation. Yeah, fresh cassette tape straight from, I don't know, Best Buy or the back of a Walmart. Let's get that tape distortion going. Yeah, it sounds... Woo, that is distorted. Let's add back in some direct sound. Ooh, yeah, that's a lot of distortion. So maybe I would probably dial it back just a tiny bit, but I love that character. That's really cool. Yeah. Oh man, it just sounds like gravel. I love it. Okay, and then this is going to be the flutter tone. Let's see what that is. I'll dial this back off. Okay, what this sounds like to me is it's emulating if the rotors spinning the tape are spinning the tape, and then the tape has sort of degraded. It's not gripping onto the wheels like it used to. It's sort of slipping. It's speeding up and slowing down in some places, maybe combined with the tape being kind of stretched. That's the impression that I'm getting. The tape is slowing down and speeding up, and that's why you're getting that like pitch change, almost like the modulation from the Memory Man or the mod mode. Yeah, that's definitely it's definitely that. That's extreme. Let's dial these two in. Well, first let's go to 50-50. And this is cool because we're messing with two different effects. That's a lot easier for me when the two knobs aren't related to each other. A lot easier to dial in. How much of this do I want? How much of this do I want? You know? So let's go. Honestly, if I were using it, like, if I'm going to switch to this mode, I want this setting that it's on right now. I want this nice, just straight up noon, 50-50. I like the quality of that sound. All right, let's check it out. Get back to some... Okay, cool. Let's add the other effect on top. All right. Okay, I can dial in a little more then. Yeah, that really affects the sound. It has a really cool effect. What if I turn the delay down here and I just switch all the way over to the tape sound instead? Sound like I just recorded myself on some tape and you're playing it back for the 1000th time. Well, that's rough. Add back in some direct. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that definitely, with it cranked up, with the character cranked up like that, definitely needs some direct sound to set the, you know, where's the pitch going to be, where did the note start, all of that kind of stuff. I wouldn't really want to take that away from the tape delay. Let's compare it to the Memory Man again with everything on and all the same settings. Okay, now to the Memory Man. Alright, let's do it with a bigger delay here. Back to tape. I'm gonna roll that shimmery effect. Yeah, it was getting into the territory of having a vocalist look over at me like, what are you doing? So, yeah, I had to roll that back just a little bit. Okay, now, verb. I'm going to get these all kind of set back to a default. Turn all the other effects off. What does this verb do? This is, okay, it's reverb plus delay. So what are we working with here? In this mode, each echo also has a plate reverb applied to it. Okay. The feedback knob, so it says, okay, it gives this tip. Turn the feedback knob all the way down to get a pure reverb effect. Okay, so it's going to apply reverb then to the original sound, there, or to that first delay that it hits if I turn the delay all the way down too. And then I can use the delay as a pre-delay knob. And that's kind of what I was talking about earlier, where reverbs have a pre-delay. They wait a little bit to add the reverb in so it doesn't cover up the direct sound or any like articulation or anything. So let me do this, and then of course there are also some secondary functions. So let's check out the verb. So are we dry here? Oh yeah, that's completely nothing being applied there. Let's go back to this whole clip because that little mini clip is starting to get repetitive. Alright, let's apply this reverb. Now let's take I'm going to do what it said here. Roll everything down. And this should be just pure reverb. There's going to be one feedback, and the delay is at like 5 milliseconds, so just instantly. Let's just hear what the reverb sounds like built in. that's some reverb for sure. I want to add the EQ on the end of this really quickly, just because that's going to make a pretty big difference, and we can compare it to the reverbs that I sort of have going on already. That sounds like I'm playing in a bathroom one house over, you know? So let's see what else we can do. There are definitely secondary knob modes here. And the first one adjusts the reverb time. And that usually means how long the reverb lasts after the original effect is applied. That's usually in values of like seconds or milliseconds. So it's not a pre-delay. It's not how long it's going to wait to start the reverb. It's how long the reverb is going to last once it's started. And that includes after the pre-delay has happened. And then the reverb starts, it's going to last however many seconds. I like about 2.5 seconds. I think that sounds... it's not super subtle, but as my rule from earlier says, you have to add a little bit more than you think. So let's do it. In secondary function mode, let's adjust this reverb time. So all the way down, not much should happen. Oh, you know what? I've made a mistake here because I moved the feedback knob down to 0, and it has a default setting. I need to stay on that until I'm ready. Factory default is max. Wait, that's the wrong one. Verb feedback knob. Factory default setting is to maximum. Oh wow. Okay. So maximum, and this is the brightest reverb sound. I definitely hear the brightness in that. And let's make it last longer. Yeah, I like that area. 40 to 50% sounds pretty nice. Okay, let's add the original sound back in. Okay, that sounds pretty nice. Let's adjust this is the tone of it. So I'm going to crank it all the way to affected sound again and adjust the tone of this reverb. Yeah, it takes a lot of that edginess off. And then earlier when I accidentally turned it all the way down, we got this just... So this almost feels like a high-end roll-off, and I'm just adjusting the frequency that it rolls off the high end. Maybe that's an oversimplification, but it's a good way to kind of think of it so that you can apply that quickly, you know. So when I hear these, you know, earlier when I had these blended, I'll go back to that. When I had these blended, my kind of problem with it was you get that bounce back, sort of slap back sound of the original delay. Let's go back to the kind of default settings here. So yeah, I hear a lot of the articulation from that first repeat. So I can use this, okay, which it's currently in the max setting. Alright, so that's a pretty far in the back of the room sound. Let's compare it to unaffected. There's still a little brightness in that. I accidentally turned on the tap delay. Okay, so that's another way I could sort of get my sound to be really way back in the mix, in the back of the room. Let me use it in a more kind of combined way that I think they meant for it to be used, as a delay, but the delays just also had this extra character. Okay, and that's just with the EQ on at the end. I'll turn the other reverbs back on and see how swimmy we can get. So that's pretty swimmy with the other reverbs. And then the way that I kind of use it. So I might, if I were going to use it like this, I might go back. Actually, let me just go back and do it. I would turn this tone knob up a little bit. If I'm gonna cut out a lot of the direct sound, or kind of the original sound, I need just a little bit more brightness so it's obvious where a note starts and stops, that kind of thing. Mainly starts. Okay, I'm not the hugest fan. It is a plate reverb. I'm not the hugest fan of this type. It sounds really kind of rigid to me. So I'm going to go ahead and move on because I know I don't think I'm going to get it into a better place than what I just had. I think that's the way I would use it. I just don't like the sound as much. Next, we have an octave. We got to get out of this secondary mode. Next, we have an octave delay. I'm going to turn all these other effects off first. Okay, the EQ and reverb from the other pedal are off. And let's see what they have to say about the octave delay. From what I know, every delay, it just adds an octave, like a pitch shift. So in this mode, each repeat is progressively shifted up one octave. Boom. Like, that's there we go, straight to the point. Each repeat goes up an octave. Let's hear it. Okay. Checks out. In octave mode, the secondary knob mode, let's see, the delay knob controls the ascending octaves. Factory defaults the maximum position, so all the way clockwise, and that's definitely what it sounds like. Those are very clear and happening. The feedback knob controls, you can add descending octave delays, and the factory default is in the minimum position, which means the octave down delays are muted. So we have two things going on here. We've got, this is every delay gets pitch shifted an octave down, and this is an octave up. So here was the default. Let me roll back that delay time just a little bit. Okay. All right. So in default mode, we are like this. So I might want to roll those octave up delays down just a little bit. Let's add in some sub octaves. Let's get out of this. I guess my question with this is, could I use it as an octave pedal? Let's find out. So I would need the effects level cranked all the way to the right so that it's all effects. If I want to go octave down, I need the the up shift turned all the way down, and I need the sub octave turned all the way up. Then I want to get out of the secondary mode. I want to turn the feedback and delay all the way down. I want it to happen instantly, and I only want it to happen once. Let's hear it. Cool. Let me compare that to my actual octave pedal. So that's off. Octave pedal's on. Oh, my bad. I got to turn the dry signal all the way down for that to work out. Alright, so I'm actually still hearing a little bit of that dry signal, or maybe even just the octave up. I don't know. I'm hearing a little bit of that dry signal in here, but that is pretty cool that I could, potentially use it like that if I absolutely had to. Really no reason though, because I have this octave pedal that does a really nice job. And now I'm going to have to dial it back in to the sensitivity of the Qtron, because that's where it goes. Okay, I'll do that later. So back to the Canyon. There's the octave up and down. I feel like that one's pretty straightforward. It does sound like they're a digital delay. I mean, it probably has to be in order for the signal to be processed. It's got to be, I mean, all of these are probably being converted to digital signal. I don't think it's running any analog chips, It definitely doesn't have like a tape reel for the tape delay. So, but yeah, they sound pretty like digital and I don't know, just straight to the point. Now this one, oh, you know what? I didn't do those octaves with the with any of the other effects. So let me go back. Turn this on first of all. I like orange if I'm going to use tap tempo. And I'm going to dial these in at 50-50. Let's go. Okay, and then I'm going to dial the time and feedback over there. This is, I like this kind of default setting to start working from. Let's add the other effects on here. Okay, I don't really like the octave up sound that's happening, so just in the interest of me ever using this in the future, I'm going to dial that in. I can even hear with the once I turn the feedback up, the repeats that come after the first one trying to get pitch shifted. I'm not sure if that stacks, if it keeps trying to pitch shift another octave down. It seems like it just pitch shifts it once and then does the delay. I'm fine with that. Doesn't really matter to me. I accidentally hit play. Okay. Shimmer. This is my tool here. Okay. This is the one I leave it on. So shimmer. This mode creates a shimmer effect. Go figure. It it says generating a rich octave shifted wash of harmony with your guitar or saxophone. It achieves this by modeling a chain of 4 pedals. So here's what it's got going on. It's simulating the instrument going into a compressor first, and then it splits the signal. It's got a dry signal and a wet signal on from there. In the wet signal, it has a pitch shifter, which is a POG 2, in case you're curious about what that is. And then it goes into a memory man, like the one that's already built into this pedal. And then it goes into another memory man. So basically, both the signal recombines and then goes into that last memory man. So one side goes into an octave and a memory man, the other side just clean after the compressor, and then they both hit another memory man. Let's mess with this. It's the most complex one, but I really like it. Let's go. I forgot to turn the other effects off. Okay, sorry about that. I can definitely hear that shimmery effect happening. I can hear the reflections of the octave up of the pitch shifted sound and the separate delays that are happening outside of the pitch shifter. Let's check out what these knobs do. So I already kind of dialed that sound in. The way I use this, I crank this all the way over. Yeah, and you can just hear how that gets super washy. I'll turn the feedback down a little bit. Now, you're hearing that build up a lot right there. Those longer notes really stack up. This is where the EQ on this last pedal really comes in handy. So I've turned that on. Let's go back to this long note. Now, when I'm playing live, I use this to my advantage by using that dynamic change that's present in the pedal instead of kind of doing as much with my air. The pedal will sort of stack up the dynamics. That's really great building up to like a chorus section or something, and then having those tails sort of go into the chorus section, and it really just stacks up all those delays. Let's do the secondary functions really quickly. They so the delay knob adds a low pass filter to let's see, just the delays. Oh, on the shimmer effect. Sorry. A low pass filter, which usually means a high cut. Those are sort of interchangeable. Or they are interchangeable for the most part, I should say. A lot of companies use either one. I mean, the same thing is what I mean. So factory default is set to maximum, which means it's wide open. You're getting all the high frequencies. Turn it down to get a warmer shimmer. And the feedback knob controls the modulation depth. So you were hearing that wah 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 happening inside the shimmery effect. That's the feedback depth. Let's get into that. So let me get a setting I'm happy with here. I think I've already gotten it. Okay, that's nice. So here's what it said. This roll off was up here at 100%. It's just a band pass, all the EQs going through, and then we're going to start rolling off high end as we turn it down. So let's try that. If I turn it all the way down, you might as well not have it. Okay, I kind of dig that sound. Let's work with this modulation we've got going on. It said the default is 9 o'clock. Wow, that's not very much there. This could get wild. No modulation. Let's add that modulation. Woo! Wow. Yeah, that's a bunch. And this is the same modulation depth from the Deluxe Memory Man from earlier. So we're working with the Memory Man modulation here. Just in case it sounds exactly the same to you. So I'm going to turn that down pretty far. Okay, so I've actually dialed a little more in, but I wonder when I get back into this mode if that's going to become more present if I turn this feedback knob up. Okay, now I want to show you how I use that with the other things, because this is one I do use. Let me turn the other reverbs on. I gotta turn that modulation down just a little bit. Now, I use this in conjunction, well, anytime I sort of want to get out of the mix and get to the back of a mix. What I'll usually do is add our friend the ARP87 here. Let me zoom this camera out. You can see the whole thing going on. Cool, cool. Okay, so I usually use this to get that to really happen a lot. So I might even dial this more to the wet side and then add this in. Beat up, get the tempo tapped in, and let's go. So that gets really ethereal really quickly, especially with this other delay turned on. All right. Another thing that shimmer effect really helps with is the Q-tron. For sure. It can make this really speak out. Here's an example of that. Now, when I'm using the Q-tron, I might roll the effect back to where the main signal is coming through and the shimmer is just getting added onto it. So in that mode, it gets really swimmy. And then we add this other delay on top of it. Yeah, that just goes out of control. And just to complete the circle, let's go ahead and add this octave pedal and drop it down an octave. Or just add an octave. Now that's a pretty cool sound. I'm happy with that. That's pretty awesome. Last thing I'm going to do is the so you see I'm second to last function here, but I want to clarify that the last function is a loop pedal, so I don't that's kind of that's just a different type of effect, so I don't really want to go over that because it has a whole separate function on its own, and I never use it as I don't use it as a loop pedal, and it doesn't really do any crazy things with the loop. You just use it like a loop pedal, and you have to learn how to make all the functions work, like record over or delete and record, and that can be really fishy with a one switch pedal like this that doesn't have another control switch plugged in. So I'm not going to go through all those things because they get really specific and tedious, and that's something, if you decided to get this pedal, you would really have to sit down with and get comfortable with if you wanted to start looping some things. I would probably recommend a dedicated looper pedal, and the Grand Canyon has a lot more, from what I understand, has a lot more functionality in that department. But yeah, that's really what I would suggest, is get a dedicated loop pedal with like 2 or 3 different foot switches on it so you can really control that stuff. But the last thing I'm going to do today is the sample and hold. This is this mode senses the attack or the guitar plucks and repeats those attacks infinitely until it hears another attack. The feedback knob controls the sensitivity. That's nice. And in the minimum position, only the strongest attacks, it keeps saying plucks, will trigger the sample and hold mode. And then as it's turned up, the sensitivity is increased. And then I assume the delay time just keeps the same function. It's the delay time. So let's check it out. Sample and hold. So we've got the feedback all the way down. So now only the hardest of attacks will trigger the sample, or sorry, will trigger the hold until another attack comes in and overwrites it. Doesn't seem happy with that. Well, yeah, I don't see myself using that, using that mode very often. It has a specific function, and I don't have a need for that function really. There is in the secondary mode, we might as well go ahead and explore it. The delay does a volume, does a volume swell. So let's see. The delay knob controls the volume, decay, or swell, just like in the multi mode. Gotcha. So when it's at 12 o'clock, they stay the same volume just like they did. And then if I move it to the left or right of that, it either swells them in or decays them out. Let's check that out. I could definitely use them being decayed out. Yeah, that, I could probably find a way to use that, and I would have to dial it in so much and get to such a specific place with it. But yeah, I just don't have a need for it right now. I can't see me using that one in particular. So with that, I need to go ahead and go. It's been 2 hours, and I said I was gonna try to make this not a 2-hour video, but here we are. It's a pedal with a lot of functions, so it really takes that. It takes that much time to go through them all and mess with them all. And this is kind of what it takes to get into. Oh, sorry about that. I knocked the camera there. This is what it takes to get into this world of all these effects and pedals and everything. You have to experiment with them and see what they do for you and which sounds you like. And if you're just starting out, I would really suggest getting a multi-effects pedal. Probably the best one that you can afford. Whatever you can afford, like find, if you've got $100, just Google it up. What's the best multi-effects pedal for $100? And just experiment with all the sounds available and see which ones you like. Narrow it down. Then, if you want to move on from that, what I would suggest is after that, when you get that pedal, if you found all the sounds that you like, or some sounds that you like, or especially one sound that you really like, narrow it down to one sound that you're like, I love it so much, I really want to play with that. Then get a dedicated pedal that does that thing. So if you find a delay that you really like, say if you get a multi-effects rig and it has a memory man in there that you really like, look into grabbing a memory man or a memory man clone, so that you can really dial in that sound to be exactly what you want. And that's the way that you start to build these pedal boards. That's how I built this. I started out with a Digitech RP 255. I think I bought it for like 50 or 60 bucks. And then I slowly just added pedals. I didn't have this Qtron. I was doing a touch wah or an auto wah. I think it called it a T wah on there, a touch wah, or just envelope filter. I was doing an envelope filter on there, and then I was like, I really would like it to sound different and have more control and stuff. And then I was like, what's just the envelope filter? And it was Qtron is the one that I really liked. So I grabbed up the best Qtron that I could afford, which is the Plus. I think it's the top one they make anyway, as far as foot switch pedals go. So I got that, and then it has the loop in it, so I can keep customizing it even further. I could put this whole pedal board inside the Qtron loop. It would be kind of ridiculous, but I could do it. So that's the way that you build up these boards and the functionality, like piece by piece. And that's what I've done here. And the Canyon has added a lot to my board, because I can dial it in for specific situations. So if I'm playing, for example, in flow tone, I'm playing horn, I'm playing sax, tenor sax next to a guitar player, a bass player, and a drummer. So I have a lot of times where I can be really forward and like play these sick guitar riffs with them, where the whole band just has this unison riff. But then other times, the bass player and guitar player also sing. And like, I need to be underneath that, because people need to hear the lyrics. They write fantastic lyrics. I want everybody to hear those. I kind of want to hear them. So, I got to stay underneath that. This pedal lets me switch between being in front of the band or being behind the band. That's really useful. In another situation, when I'm kind of fronting a band, and it's just me in front the whole time, I can use this to just add a little bit of a little touch of delay, reverb. I could even, in that situation, just take this pedal on its own, even though I probably just wouldn't want to take it off my board. I could even just take it for some ambiance or something, and add some delay and reverb to the sound. So this one is really versatile. It is the last one that I've added, I think. So like, I don't know, I'm really happy with it. If you're interested in it, look for a place to pick one up. Sorry, I'm not selling mine, so you're gonna have to find somewhere else. But yeah, it's really worth it, in my opinion. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please drop a comment and ask, or any comments, any suggestions, any like, hey bro, you messed up on this, you missed out on this function, you did this mode without touching the feedback knob ever or something, or hey, what does it sound like when you do this? I'm down. I'll give it a shot. Okay, just please be tactful and everything like that. So, all right, thank you all, especially the people who have subscribed and been watching these. I really appreciate that. I make them for you. I don't, they're not monetized or anything. So I just want to share the knowledge that I've gained and the experience. So, all right, until next time and beyond, please take care of yourselves, and see you next time.